long have you been hung up on Robin? 8 years? And you're still killing yourself to fetch dumb little trinkets for her. That's crazy. That's more than crazy. I don't think there's a word for what that is.
Actually, there is a word for that. It's love.
Remember the sinking feeling? That moment, your favorite sitcom takes a sharp, awkward turn, usually because of a new character. Before the cancellation notice, there's a sign, a walking, talking dose of sitcom kryptonite. We've all got that one character who makes us say, "That's when the show lost me." So keep that character in mind and let us know in the comments if they made our list. Also, be sure to like and subscribe because it really helps the channel. Now, let's get into it. 1. Ted Mosby from How I Met Your Mother.
Here? Yeah. It's the t-shirt, isn't it?
No. A little.
Something is seriously wrong with you.
Let's start with a controversial one. It's not a new character, but a complete character assassination of the main one. For 9 seasons, How I Met Your Mother was built on a single, unwavering premise. Ted Mosby is telling his children the epic winding story of how he met their mother, Tracy McConnell. We waited. We watched Ted date a dozen wrong women. We invested in the mythology of the yellow umbrella. The show was a romantic comedy about destiny, patience, and the journey being just as important as the destination. Then came the finale. In the last 5 minutes, the show took a flamethrower to its own legacy. After a brief, beautiful, and tragically short life together, Tracy dies. And what does Ted do? With the lukewarm blessing of his kids, he runs right back to Robin Scherbatsky, the woman the show spent 9 seasons proving he wasn't compatible with. The entire series, the titular mother, was reframed as a temporary roadblock on the way back to Ted's college crush. The backlash was immediate and volcanic. Fans felt cheated. Ted, the hopeless romantic, was revealed to be a man who used the memory of his dead wife as a charming prologue to getting back with his ex. He didn't ruin the show week to week, but in its final moments, his character arc retroactively soured the entire 208-episode journey. It was a narrative choice so divisive it fractured the fan base and serves as a masterclass in how to alienate the very people who loved your show the most. 2. The triplets from Friends.
You think you're my favorite.
Which one do you have?
I don't care.
Friends was a show about 6 20-somethings navigating careers, coffee shops, and ridiculously spacious New York City apartments. For most of its run, it was a finely tuned machine of chemistry and wit. A key part of that machine was Phoebe Buffay, the delightfully eccentric masseuse with a heart of gold and a guitar that knew 3 chords. Her storylines were always a welcome break from the Ross and Rachel drama, offering a dose of pure, unadulterated weirdness. Then, in Season 4, the writers decided to give her a storyline with real, lasting consequences. She agrees to be the surrogate for her half-brother, Frank Jr., and his wife, Alice. It was a sweet, emotional arc that culminated in the birth of triplets in the 100th episode, The 100th. The problem? The triplets themselves. Frank Jr., Leslie, and Chandler Buffay weren't characters. They were screaming, crying plot devices. Suddenly, Phoebe's storylines were anchored by the exhausting reality of infant care. The free-spirited musician was now babysitting, changing diapers, and dealing with the overwhelming stress of 3 babies. While it led to some funny moments, it fundamentally tethered her character to a domesticity that felt at odds with her core identity. The triplets rarely had personalities beyond being a handful, and their presence often felt like a narrative chore the show had to deal with rather than a fun new dynamic. They didn't sink Friends, a show too big to fail at that point, but they did dilute one of its most unique and beloved characters. 3. Ryan Howard from The Office.
She said she's not really ready to date somebody in the office, but she really likes you as a friend.
I figured. It's cool. I wouldn't want to be in an office relationship anyway.
When we first met Ryan Howard on The Office, he was just the temp. played by B.J. Novak, who was also a writer on the show, Ryan was our surrogate, the normal, slightly ambitious young man reacting with quiet horror and bemusement to the circus of Dunder Mifflin. His grounded presence was a necessary anchor against Michael Scott's chaotic energy. He was relatable. Then came the fall. After a brief, disastrous stint as a high-level executive at corporate, Ryan was fired for fraud and returned to the Scranton branch a broken man. And this is where the character started to curdle. The relatability was gone, replaced by an increasingly pathetic and insufferable pretentiousness. He became a caricature of a failed millennial hipster, launching one terrible startup idea after another. http://www.google.com. Search wphf.com. Anyone? Dressing in ridiculous outfits and speaking in a haze of meaningless corporate jargon. His on-again, off-again relationship with Kelly Kapoor devolved from a funny side plot into a gratingly toxic cycle. By the final seasons, Ryan was no longer a character you rooted for or even laughed with. He was just an annoyance. Every time he appeared on screen, it felt less like a chance for comedy and more like a test of the audience's patience. The writers had taken a perfectly good straight man and twisted him into a one-note joke that had long since worn out its welcome. Fourth Dakota from 8 Simple Rules. 8 Simple Rules for Dating. My Teenage Daughter was a solid ABC sitcom built around the comedic genius of John Ritter as Paul Hennessy, a dad struggling to cope with his 2 teenage daughters and son. Ritter's sudden and tragic death in 2003 left a massive hole in the center of the show and presented the creators with an impossible choice: cancel the show or try to retool it. They chose to retool. The show was rebranded as 8 Simple Rules, and TV veterans James Garner and David Spade were brought in to fill the void as Kate's father and cousin, respectively. It was a valiant effort, but the show's heart was gone. As the retooled series struggled to find its footing, it resorted to a classic sitcom trope in its 3rd and final season. Bring in a cute kid. Enter Dakota, the 8-year-old son of a neighbor, played by Dylan Christopher. He was a precocious, smart-mouthed kid who was clearly meant to inject some youthful energy and create new comedic dynamics. But his arrival felt less like an organic development and more like a blinking neon sign of desperation. The show was now juggling the original kids growing up, David Spade's sarcastic shtick, and now a random pint-sized wisecracker. It was too much. Dakota wasn't a bad character, but he was a symbol of a show that had lost its original identity and was throwing everything at the wall to see what stuck. It didn't stick, and the series was canceled at the end of the season. 5. Nikki and Alex Katsopoulos from Full House.
We made up a joke to show. Lay it on me, boys. You have 4 legs and barks. A dog? She heard it.
Full House was the undisputed king of 90s saccharine television. It was a show powered by hugs, life lessons, and the magnetic charm of its 3 leading men and adorable kids. Michelle Tanner, the youngest of the bunch, was a catchphrase machine who had become a cultural phenomenon. "You got it, dude," was sitcom gold. But by season 5, Michelle was getting older, and the producers were clearly worried the cuteness well was running dry. Their solution? Double down. After Uncle Jesse and Aunt Becky got married, they were blessed with not 1, but 2 adorable new babies, the twins, Nikki and Alex. Played by Blake and Dylan Tuomi Will Hoyt, the boys were essentially Michelle 2.0, but with a critical flaw. There were 2 of them, and neither had a distinct personality. For the rest of the show's run, Nikki and Alex existed primarily as identical, blonde-haired props. They wore matching outfits, caused generic toddler mischief in stereo, and spoke in unison. They were less like characters and more like a single, chaotic entity designed to make Uncle Jesse's life more stressful. Unlike Michelle, who had a real rapport with her family, the twins rarely felt integrated into the core group. They were background cuteness, a Hail Mary to keep the show's core demographic engaged, but they ultimately just cluttered up an already full house. 6. Sam McKinney from Different Strokes.
You guys, knock it off, all right? I can't study.
Well, then go upstairs.
I don't want to go upstairs. I want you two to knock it off.
Arnold, this is our living room, too.
Yes, Arnold Jackson. You're just being creepy because you've got homework to do and we're having fun.
Some fun.
It is fun. What is your problem?
I don't have a problem. I just don't need some red-headed twerp saying, hello, ball.
Different Strokes was a groundbreaking sitcom for its time. Premiering in 1978, it centered on two young black kids from Harlem, Arnold and Willis Jackson, who are adopted by a wealthy white widower, Philip Drummond. The show was a ratings giant, largely thanks to the undeniable star power of Gary Coleman, whose pint-sized stature and perfect comedic timing as Arnold made "What you talkin' 'bout, Willis" a national catchphrase. But children, even TV children, have a habit of growing up. By season 6, Gary Coleman wasn't the adorable little kid he once was. The central gimmick of the show, the clash between the boys' street smarts and their new penthouse life, was wearing thin. The ratings were slipping and the network panicked. Their solution was textbook sitcom desperation 101. Enter Sam McKinney. After Mr. Drummond marries a new housekeeper, Maggie, her freckle-faced, red-headed son, Sam, played by Danny Cooksey, moves into the penthouse. He was, in no uncertain terms, a replacement Arnold. He was small, he was cute, and he was precocious. The writers immediately tried to recreate the Arnold dynamic, giving Sam sassy one-liners and fish-out-of-water plots. The problem was, we already had an Arnold. The addition of Sam felt transparent and cynical, a desperate attempt to rewind the clock. It fooled no one. The show limped on for 2 more seasons, but Sam's arrival was the moment it officially ran out of fresh ideas. 7. Luke Brower from Growing Pains.
It's amazing! This is incredible! You're not as stupid as everyone says you are!
5-5 deli and leave a wake-up call?
Don't worry, I only sleep in class.
Here's a strange one. What happens when a show makes a desperate, show-ruining move, but casts a future Oscar-winning global superstar to do it? You get Luke Brower from Growing Pains. By its 7th and final season, Growing Pains was, well, getting old. Mike Seaver, Kirk Cameron, once the resident teen heartthrob, was now a married teacher. The original family dynamic that made the show a hit was fading. So, in a last-ditch effort to recapture some youthful energy, the show brought in Luke Brower, a homeless teen in Mike's class. He was gritty, he had a tragic backstory, and he moved in with the Seavers. He was a classic late-stage addition designed to shake things up. The character was played by a floppy-haired, 17-year-old Leonardo DiCaprio. And here's the twist. Leo was fantastic. He brought a raw, dramatic weight to the role that was completely at odds with the show's goofy, laugh-track-sweetened tone. He was acting in a serious drama, while everyone else was still in a 90s sitcom. While his performance was praised, the character's inclusion was a glaring symptom of a show that had lost its way. Luke's heavy storylines about poverty and abandonment clashed awkwardly with Ben Seaver's silly schemes. So while DiCaprio himself didn't ruin the show with a bad performance, the character of Luke was a walking, brooding reminder that the original formula was broken beyond repair. The show ended that season, and Leo, well, he went on to do okay for himself. 8. Seven from Married with Children.
Is that the one who's gonna give me money?
Yeah, that's the rich one. Go bond with him.
I love you, you big lug. Give me money.
Do you know where your knee is?
Yes, I do, so give me money.
If Cousin Oliver is the official term for a late edition kid, Seven should be the term for when that kid is so universally rejected that the show pretends he never existed. Married with Children was the antithesis of the cozy family sitcom. It was cynical, crude, and hilarious. The Bundy family was a glorious mess of failure and resentment, and we loved them for it. Then, in season 7, the network executives reportedly got nervous. They wanted to soften the show's hard edges and make the Bundys more likable. Their brilliant idea? Give them a cute, precocious 6-year-old. Peg's hillbilly cousins, played bizarrely by Bobcat Goldthwait, and Linda Blair show up, dump their son on the Bundys, and vanish. The boy's name was Seven, and he was played by Shane Sweet. The problem was instantaneous and profound. A cute kid simply did not fit into the Bundyverse. The show's entire comedic engine ran on dysfunction. Adding a sweet child was like trying to fuel a monster truck with chamomile tea. The jokes fell flat. The family's cruelty towards him felt genuinely mean instead of funny, and fans hated it. The writers quickly realized their colossal mistake. After a handful of episodes, Seven started appearing less and less. Then he simply disappeared. He was never mentioned again, except for a gag where his face appears on a milk carton in a later episode. Seven's introduction and swift silent removal is one of the most fascinating and hilarious course corrections in TV history. 9. Cousin Oliver from the Brady Bunch.
No thanks, I'll get it.
No, I'm real good at ketchup. You gotta hit the bottom real hard, like this.
And here he is, the one who started it all, the character whose name became the official shorthand for a desperate, ratings-grabbing addition to an aging sitcom. We're talking, of course, about Cousin Oliver from the Brady Bunch. By 1974, the Brady Bunch was on its last legs. The Brady kids were no longer the adorable moppets of the early seasons. They were teenagers dealing with driving, dating, and groovy 70s fashion. The wholesome charm was fading. The producers, in a moment of historic desperation, decided what the show needed was another cute kid. Enter Oliver, Carol Brady's long-lost nephew, played by Robbie Rist. His parents had inexplicably abandoned him to go on an archaeological dig in South America, so he was sent to live with the Bradys. Oliver was a walking jinx, a clumsy but well-meaning kid with big glasses and an even bigger bowl cut. He was supposed to be adorable. Instead, he was annoying. Audiences saw him for exactly what he was, a cynical ploy. He appeared in the final 6 episodes of the series, and his presence did nothing to stop the ratings slide. The show was canceled, and Cousin Oliver was immortalized in the annals of TV history as the poster child for a show on life support. His name is now a punchline, a cautionary tale whispered in writers' rooms everywhere. Whatever you do, don't add a Cousin Oliver. 10. Nellie Bertram from The Office.
Happy birthday to Gabe!
Oh, get out, skeleton man.
The Office faced a monumental task in its later seasons: how to survive after the departure of its central character, Michael Scott. The show's solution was a chaotic mix of new managers and shifting dynamics, but no addition was more immediately jarring and disliked than Nellie Bertram. Introduced in Season 7 as a loud, brash, and frankly incompetent applicant for the manager job, Nellie, played by the talented Catherine Tate, was initially just a guest star. But in Season 8, she returned and, through a bizarre series of events, simply walked into the manager's office and claimed the job while Robert California was out of town. The problem was that the show presented this hostile takeover as something the other characters just accepted. Nellie was abrasive, unfunny, and her position of authority felt completely unearned. She lacked Michael's underlying vulnerability or Andy's eager-to-please nature. She was just a bossy intruder. Fans despised her. The writers eventually softened her character, giving her a sad backstory about wanting a child and turning her into a more sympathetic, albeit still quirky, member of the team. but the damage was done. For many viewers, her initial introduction was a shark jump moment from which the post-Michael era of the show never fully recovered. 11th, Ben Chang from Community.
Well, I'll tell you why I teach Spanish. It is none of your business, okay? And I don't want to have any conversations about what a mysterious, inscrutable man I am. I am a Spanish genius!
In Season 1 of Community, Senor Ben Chang, played by the brilliant Ken Jeong, was a comedic force of nature. He was the unhinged, tyrannical Spanish teacher at Greendale Community College, a petty dictator who lorded his minimal power over the study group. He was unpredictable, hilarious, and used in perfect, concentrated doses. Then he stopped being a teacher, and the show seemed to have no idea what to do with him. What followed was a series of increasingly bizarre and disconnected character arcs that stretched credulity, even for a show as meta as Community. He went from a crazy teacher to a pathetic student trying to join the study group, to a campus security guard who stages a coup and becomes a full-blown dictator, to suffering from Changnesia and calling himself Kevin, to eventually joining the committee to save Greendale. With each transformation, the character became more and more unmoored from his original, effective premise. The joke shifted from "this teacher is insane" to "what random cartoonish thing can we have Chang do this week?" While Ken Jeong always gave it his all, the character became a vessel for the show's most chaotic and sometimes laziest impulses. He was a prime example of Flanderization, taking one character trait, insanity, and amplifying it until it consumes everything else, leaving a hollow, repetitive shell behind. 12th, Scrappy-Doo from Scooby-Doo.
All right, Shadow Creature, you're dealing with Scrappy-Doo now.
Okay, technically this is a cartoon, but it's impossible to have a conversation about show-ruining characters without mentioning the undisputed heavyweight champion of the trope. He is the alpha and the omega of annoying additions, a character so despised he became a pop culture pariah. Scrappy-Doo. By the late 1970s, the original Scooby-Doo "Where Are You" formula was getting stale. Facing cancellation, the network executives decided the gang needed new blood. Their solution was Scooby-Doo's nephew, Scrappy-Doo, a tiny Great Dane puppy with a Napoleon complex. Scrappy was the polar opposite of his uncle. Where Scooby was cowardly and lovable, Scrappy was aggressive and obnoxious. His entire personality consisted of screaming puppy power and trying to pick fights with monsters 10 times his size. He completely hijacked the show's dynamic. The mysteries took a backseat to Scrappy's antics. Even worse, to make room for him, the show sidelined Fred, Daphne, and Velma for a time, leaving us with the Scrappy and Shaggy and Scooby show. Fans loathed him. He was a grating, one-dimensional character who took a beloved ensemble and made it all about him. The term Scrappy has since become synonymous with any young, annoying character shoehorned into an existing property to its detriment. He didn't just ruin his show, he became the very definition of how to ruin a show. 13th, Poochie from The Simpsons.
Oh yeah, bingo. There it is, right there.
Some characters ruin their shows by accident. Poochie ruined his on purpose. In one of the most brilliant and meta commentaries on television ever produced, The Simpsons decided to tackle the issue of show-ruining characters head-on with the episode The Itchy and Scratchy and Poochie Show. The setup is perfect. The ratings for The Itchy and Scratchy Show are slipping, so network executive Krusty the Clown and a team of writers decide to add a new character to freshen things up. After a series of focus groups, they create Poochie, a cartoon dog with every focus group trait imaginable. He's a rapping, surfing, skateboarding dog with a bad toot and sunglasses. He is the ultimate soulless corporate creation. Homer is cast as the voice of Poochie, who is then shoehorned into an itchy and scratchy cartoon. The result is a disaster. He's not funny, he interrupts the classic dynamic, and his catchphrase, "I have to go now," My Planet Needs Me, is met with dead silence from the in-universe audience. Poochie is everything wrong with late-stage character additions rolled into one perfect parody. He's loud, obnoxious, and exists only to pander. The Simpsons didn't just identify the trope, they mercilessly dissected it, creating the ultimate cautionary tale that hangs over every writer's room to this day. 14th April, Nardini from Gilmore Girls. While Gilmore Girls is often categorized as a dramedy, its fast-talking, pop-culture-obsessed dialogue gave it the rhythm and wit of a top-tier sitcom. For 6 seasons, the show's central pillar was the slow-burn romance between Lorelai Gilmore and Luke Danes. Their will they won't they dance was the emotional core of the series. They finally got together, and all was right in Stars Hollow. And then April Nardini showed up. In the middle of season 6, a quirky, hyper-intelligent 12-year-old girl named April walks into Luke's diner, plucks a hair off his head for a science fair project, and reveals that she is his daughter he never knew he had. Played by Vanessa Moreno, April wasn't a bad character in a vacuum. She was smart and endearing in her own right. The problem was her function in the plot. She was a human grenade tossed into the middle of the show's most beloved relationship. Luke, struggling with sudden fatherhood, hides April from Lorelai, creating a massive artificial rift between them. April became the sole reason for their eventual, painful breakup. For fans who had waited years to see Luke and Lorelai happy, she was an unwelcome and deeply frustrating obstacle. She wasn't a cute kid, added for ratings. She was a walking, talking plot device designed to create drama, and in doing so, she derailed the entire emotional trajectory of the show, leading to a widely disliked final season under new showrunners that fans still complain about today. 15. The Joey-Rachel romance from Friends.
Well, when we're at the door, I lightly press my lips against his and then move into his body just for a second. And then I make this sound. Okay, I know it doesn't sound like anything, but I swear it works.
Yeah, well, yeah, that would work, yeah.
This wasn't a single character, but a character pairing so misguided, so fundamentally wrong, that it felt like a betrayal. For 8 seasons, Friends had established its core dynamics. Joey was the simple-minded, good-hearted womanizer. Rachel was the fashion-loving, slightly spoiled, but lovable girl. Next door, their relationship was one of pure, uncomplicated friendship. And Ross and Rachel were, well, Ross and Rachel. Their epic on-again, off-again romance was the show's central love story. Then, at the end of season 8, the show went off the deep end. Joey develops a crush on Rachel. It was sweet, if a little weird. But then, in season 9, Rachel reciprocates, and they actually get together. The result was one of the most awkward and uncomfortable plot arcs in sitcom history. Matt LeBlanc and Jennifer Aniston, who had amazing platonic chemistry, had zero romantic chemistry. Their scenes together were cringeworthy. The pairing made no sense for either character. It felt like a desperate, last-minute attempt to create drama and fill the void while the Ross and Rachel story was on pause. Fans revolted. It felt incestuous, like watching 2 siblings try to kiss. The writers thankfully realized their mistake and broke them up after a few painful episodes, but the stain remained. It was a bizarre, character-betraying detour that served only to cheapen the genuine friendships the show had spent nearly a decade building. 16. Andy Bernard from The Office.
For some reason, think it's funny to steal someone's personal property and hide it from them. Here's a little news flash. It's not funny. In fact, it's pretty freaking unfunny.
The devolution of Andy Bernard is one of the most tragic cases of character assassination in modern sitcom history. When he first arrived in season 3, the Nard Dog was an obnoxious, a cappella singing blowhard from a rival branch. Over time, however, The writers softened him, revealing a deeply insecure and vulnerable man desperate for approval. He grew into a lovable, if pathetic, underdog. His courtship of Erin was sweet, and when he became the manager after Michael left, it felt like a fitting, earned promotion. Then Season 9 happened. For reasons that remain baffling, the writers decided to systematically destroy every ounce of goodwill Andy had built up. He abandons Erin and the office to take his family's boat on a 3-month trip to the Bahamas, turning into a selfish, neglectful jerk. When he returns, he's even worse, arrogant, delusional, and cruel. He throws his newfound YouTube fame, or lack thereof, in everyone's face and treats Erin horribly. He went from being the show's new heart to its new villain. By the time he quits Dunder Mifflin to pursue his dream of stardom, culminating in a humiliating breakdown on a reality singing competition, there was nothing left to root for. The writers had taken a beloved character and sacrificed him for a series of cheap, unfunny plot points, leaving viewers to wonder what they ever liked about him in the first place. 17. Lucy Bennett from Scrubs Med School.
Kiwi.
What?
I smell kiwi.
Yeah, it's my shampoo. I love kiwis, okay?
I love them too. Actually, that's not true. They're hairy. They look like monkey nuts.
Don't smell people. It's weird.
Scrubs had a perfect ending. The Season 8 finale, my finale, was a beautiful emotional send-off that wrapped up JD's journey at Sacred Heart, gave every character a heartfelt goodbye, and left fans in a puddle of happy tears. It was, by all accounts, the end. But then ABC decided it wasn't. The network renewed the show for a 9th season, but with a twist. It was rebranded as Scrubs Med School, moved to a new university setting, and introduced a new cast of young medical students. The protagonist of this new iteration was Lucy Bennett, played by Carrie Bechet. She was meant to be the new JD, a quirky, insecure, voiceover narrating newbie trying to find her way. The problem was that no one wanted a new JD. We wanted the old Scrubs. The new characters felt like pale imitations of the originals, and Lucy, through no fault of the actress, bore the brunt of the fans' resentment. The show tried to have it both ways, keeping some of the original cast around as teachers like Dr. Cox and Turk, but it only highlighted how inferior the new version was. Scrubs Med School felt like a completely different, and much worse, show wearing the skin of the one we loved. It was canceled after just 13 episodes, proving that sometimes the best thing a show can do is know when to say goodbye. 18. Walden Schmidt from 2.5 Men.
So, Kelly. My wife dumped me and I want to die.
You poor baby.
I love her so much.
For 8 seasons, 2.5 Men was an unsinkable ratings juggernaut built entirely around the chaotic star power of Charlie Sheen as the hedonistic jingle writer Charlie Harper. When Sheen had a very public meltdown in 2011 and was fired from the show, creator Chuck Lorre was faced with a choice: end the show or attempt the impossible, replace the irreplaceable. He chose the latter. Charlie Harper was unceremoniously killed off-hit by a train, and his beach house was bought by Walden Schmidt, a lovelorn internet billionaire played by Ashton Kutcher. And just like that, the entire premise of the show evaporated. The core dynamic, a lazy, cynical playboy Charlie forced to live with his neurotic cheapskate brother, John Cryer's Alan, was gone. Walden was the anti-Charlie. He was nice, naive, and emotionally vulnerable. The show became about a sad rich guy and his mooching house guest. All the edgy, cynical humor was replaced with a softer, more generic brand of comedy. Ashton Kutcher is a capable comedic actor, but the role was a creative dead end. The show was no longer 2.5 Men. It was a completely different sitcom being filmed on the same sets. It limped on for 4 more seasons, a ghost of its former self, a testament to the fact that sometimes the show really is the star. 19th, Tori Scott from Saved by the Bell. Saved by the Bell was a Saturday morning institution. The adventures of Zach, Slater, Screech, Lisa, Kelly, and Jesse at Bayside High were required viewing for every kid in the early 90s. The chemistry of the main 6 was the show's entire appeal. So imagine the confusion of young viewers during the show's final season. Suddenly, Kelly Kapowski and Jesse Spano were just gone. No explanation, no goodbye. And in their place was a new character, a tough leather jacket-wearing cool girl named Tori Scott, played by Leanna Creel. Zach Morris suddenly had a new foil and love interest, and everyone at Bayside acted like she'd been there all along. The real-life reason was a contract dispute. Tiffany Thiessen Kelly and Elizabeth Berkley Jesse had not signed on for extra episodes ordered by the network. So, the producers shot a block of episodes with the new character, Tori. When the episodes were aired, they were inserted randomly throughout the final season, creating a bizarrely schizophrenic viewing experience. One week, the gang would include Kelly and Jesse. The next week, they'd be gone, and Tori would be there. Then they'd be back again. The Tori episodes are a legendary blunder in TV history, a jarring and cynical attempt to pretend 2 of the most popular characters were completely interchangeable. 20. Randy Pearson from That 70s Show.
Who the hell are you? I'm Randy. I work at Hyde's record store, go to college part-time, manage bands. And if you name a city, I can tell you the time zone.
If there is a character who gives Cousin Oliver and Scrappy Doo a run for their money in the most hated edition category, it is Randy Pearson from That 70s Show. For 7 seasons, the show revolved around Eric Foreman and his group of friends in his parents' basement. Eric, played by Topher Grace, was the heart of the show. His relationship with Donna was its central romance. At the end of season 7, Topher Grace and Ashton Kutcher, who played Kelso, both left the show to pursue film careers. This was a death blow. A show called That 70s Show had lost its main 70s kid. The writer's solution was not to end the show, but to introduce a replacement. Enter Randy Pearson, played by Josh Myers. Randy was a disastrous amalgamation of the 2 characters he was meant to replace. He had Eric's sarcastic, nice guy demeanor mixed with Kelso's good looks and laid-back cool. He was, in a word, perfect, and fans despised him for it. He felt like a lab-grown character, a walking, talking network note. He immediately took Eric's place in the group, started working for Hyde at the record store, and, in the show's most unforgivable sin, became a new love interest for Donna. It was too much, too soon. Randy's presence was a constant, painful reminder that Eric and Kelso were gone. He didn't ruin a dying show. He was the tombstone placed on a show that was already dead the moment its main character walked out the door. The show was canceled after 1 Randy-filled season, and his name will forever live in sitcom infamy.